Hi guys, Wardy here, or Andrew Ward from Regen Farmers Mutual. This video is to help guide you through how the primary industries productivity and abatement program high impact partnership will work. The first thing to understand is we're running four programs: Northern Rivers, New South Wales, Upper Clarence, Southern Tablelands and Western Murray. Now, the purpose of the grant is really to answer this question: what can we do individually as farmers and collectively as a group of farmers to make an economic and environmental impact? So it's really important that plurality, an economic and environmental impact, is what our definition, a positive one at least, is our definition of regen. If you have an economic win and an environmental loss, we call that mining. And if you have an economic loss and an environmental win, we call that conservation. In order for it to be regen, it needs to be both an economic and environmental win. So, in answering that question, what can we do individually and collectively? We're going to go through a whole bunch of phases, and we're going to navigate, the ups and downs, and probably go down some, blind alleys and get it wrong. But when I say we are going down this pathway, who's the we? Well, it's a working team of five that we pay to participate. And I'd like to kind of, tell you that it is a team sport. Doing a landscape impact program, making a material difference to environmental outcomes, saving the world. It's all a team sport. And in our society, we kind of hero mythologize individuals. And, in reality, every good team or business or venture that I've been involved is a team effort. And what we're about to embark on in four different locations, in four different contexts, is no different. It's about the team. So we've got several roles. The first role, but not necessarily the most important role, is the cat herder. Now, in every community, you'll know intuitively there are these people that can make stuff happen. They get the right people in the right room at the right time. And when we're talking right people, that means, bringing in the relevant experts. When we're talking right room, it's like knowing how to engage with that community or with that organization on who you're relying. And when we talk about the right time, knowing how to continue to move things even when there's blockages and obstacles. So we need to recruit for a cat herder within our team. And clearly, each location is going to have, in Southern Tablelands and Northern Rivers and Upper Clarence and Western Murray, they're all going to have their own team of five. A regen advisor. Now the role is particularly front end loaded in a landscape impact program, because we've got to kind of understand from our pilot group of 10 what are the things that you can do individually, what are the assets, what are the emissions, what are the productivity uplifts, what are the opportunities for individual farmers. And the regen advisor within the landscape impact program has the potential, if they do their role to have ongoing work within this landscape as this transaction scales from 10 to 20 to 100 farmers over time. The next person is the business and finance person in the team. They're responsible for the budget control. So we're operating on a government grant. We've said what we're going to spend the money on. We now need to reconcile what we spend the money on. There is some capacity for every team to choose how they spend their marketing and expert budget. And so, having the business and finance manager take accountability for that is really important. The other thing is we're ultimately looking for ways to reward farmers an economic profit for their environmental good works. And so there's, co-contribution in both the financial model that's presented to individual farmers, that's presented collectively to the market, and there's, transaction co-design. So We're wanting somebody who's, financial focused, numbers literate, enjoys using Excel to take on this role. Now, there's a comms and marketing person, and they're responsible for, as we synthesize across the journey as a working team, how do we communicate this to farmers? And there's several opportunities to do so. There's three in-person events with the community and a field trip. There's collateral videos, landing pages for websites, social media, and most importantly, at the end of this process, we've got a participant information pack, which would enable any farmer to come in cold and start to understand what are the requirements and what are the expectations and what are the rewards for engaging in this transaction. The next one is the farmer avatar in the group. This person is generally a farmer, and their job is to sense test what the other people in their roles are doing. They also act as a farmer, as a conduit to the other farmers. We've found that the best farmer avatars, are happy to get into the spreadsheet, are happy to get into the comms, are happy to get into um, the role of the regen advisor in understanding, well, what's the impact on a farm. Uh, every one of these roles is really important. Now, there's also this concept of a pilot 10, which are 10 local farmers. Now, their role is to provide feedback to the working team based off their own experience and based off the data that the regen advisor, collects with them. In order to do this, they're getting free stuff from the mutual, a digital twin, they're getting advisory, they're getting reports. Additionally, they get a front row seat at this as this transaction's being piloted, and they have the opportunity to get the CER readiness grants and CER readiness match funding grants, up to $10,000 per farmer. So it's really this pilot group of 10 farmers plus that working team that are at the core and that are really navigating the landscape impact program. Now, as we mentioned, this landscape impact program goes through a series of stages. And I guess the first stage is to gather that information from the pilot 10. So the regen advisor will, get and generate a digital twin on behalf of the farmers, work with the farmers to understand their emissions estimates, use opportunity finders tools and techniques to understand, well, what are the carbon and biodiversity opportunities on each of these 10 properties, and are they typical, and how can they scale the learnings from these 10 across the broader landscape to create something of a blueprint. And understanding what are the other local initiatives going on in this landscape. All of that information needs to get gathered together, and then mapping of that information is the first session that we do with the community. We bring the group of 10 farmers, the working team, the LLSs, and other interested stakeholders into the room. We print out big maps and we look at where the opportunities are in the landscape. Then we go and test those opportunities in the landscape, make sure that what thesis we've come up with in theory works in practice. The next public session, after you've done the mapping, you've been in the field, you've got a fair idea of what transaction you want the farmers to engage with, what intervention, what measurements you think they might need to do. You do, however, need to go and test this with the capital stacks. So we test it with supply chains and philanthropic capital for their needs, with banks and investors for their needs. And that helps us understand, well, if somebody's going to pay for one of these impacts, what is the reporting requirements that they require? And, what's the cost benefit of recording that information? And does it make sense for the farmers to do so? After this testing, you iterate, you model, you analyze, and now you're moving more into that business and finance role, the farmer avatar, the cat herder, starting to work through, well, how do we express this? And then ultimately you're socializing a transaction that you think could then be replicated, to the next 10, to the next 10, to the next 10 farmers across the landscape and across time. Now, to help farmers understand, well, how do we go from this abstracted uh, you know, transaction to something that works on my farm? We're providing 10 full grants in each region to help farmers get CER ready, where they can lodge a project with the Clean Energy Regulator for carbon. We're also helping 10 farmers with match funded grants. So they'll get half of what the full grants got, and they're expected to put in half. But that means within a region, you've got a blueprint for a transaction, and you've got up to 20 people who are have taken that blueprint and applied it in their specific farms. And that makes it a lot easier for the next 30, 40, 50, 100 people to come on, because we've sort of weeded out extraneous things that don't add value. We've simplified the process, and we've learned with the regen advisor how to get things done. So, that regen advisor and the farmers who've received the $10,000 CER readiness grant, they'll do the GIS walk. They'll understand how much carbon or biodiversity is potentially there. They will have created a financial model. They will have been able to take this financial model to their bank, to their lawyer, to their accountant, and received eligible interest holder consent, for example. And that'll enable them to then go forward and run
Loud
a great.
voices. And what are the voices
And
going
when
to
you
say?
do,
They're going to say, trap
there's an
rockers!
opportunity
Okay,
for the
3,
whole community to come
2,
together.
1.
That's how we're
Trap
going to
rockers!
celebrate uh,
Thank you,
the great
everyone.
result within a community. So, week by week, you're going to take this team of 5 through a meandering process of discovery with some defined milestones along the way. You're going to work as a weekly team with an evolving agenda. You've got a digital whiteboard on which you can record all your things. You're going to be supported. The Regen Farmers Mutual team wants to make sure that this is a success in every location that we're working at. Myself and Rowan have a great deal of facilitation and co-design experience. We also have networks of experts locally, networks of experts within domains, whether that's hydrology or biodiversity or the market side. You have one another in your working team. And more importantly, if you're the cat herder in the Northern Rivers, I want you to be talking with the cat herder in Western Murray and learning from one another. And so we provide support opportunities for you to get it, supported through this 20-week process. And of course, we've already talked about the funding. The paid working team of 5 over the 20 weeks get a stipend. It's like $50 an hour. The pilot group of 10 get free digital twins, carbon estimations, opportunity finders. We also have provided money for each working team to access experts that are relevant to their context. And we have the CER readiness grants and the CER readiness match funding grants ready to follow on the landscape impact program. Now, I'm not saying this is all, smooth sailing. We are going to go through that team development process of, forming, storming, norming, and then performing. At some point, you're going to go, are we lost? What are we doing? At some point, you're going to think, oh, these guys are dickheads. That's perfect. It means that we're making progress. Now, if we do it all right, we will achieve the purpose of this grant, which is to ask, what can we do individually and collectively to make an economic and environmental impact? I look forward to joining you all those that are interested on this journey. It's fun, it's exciting, and it's impactful.